Welcome to the Spanish Bible Podcast, a podcast for English speakers who want to better understand the Spanish Bible. Whether you're preparing for ministry, learning Spanish, or simply curious about how God's Word has been translated into one of the world's most widely spoken languages, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we'll explore the history, underlying text, translation, vocabulary, and unique features of the Spanish Bible, with the goal of helping you understand it more clearly and use it more confidently. Let's get started. I know up until now, I've been laying a lot of groundwork, and if you've landed here in the first episode that you're watching, you may need to go back and watch some of the previous episodes. You may be perfectly fine jumping in here. Maybe you're content with the King James Bible. Maybe you understand all of that. You don't need that groundwork. The history of the Spanish Bible is helpful just to understand, but maybe you don't need all that. That's fine. But we finally come to the place that has been anticipated, we've been waiting for, and we're going to discuss Bible verses. Personally, my favorite. We're going to go beyond just showing air, and we're going to show you when the air was introduced, and we're going to cover verses today, but we're not going to cover all the verses. There are literally hundreds of verses that we could look at, and today's sampling are just a small sample as we wade in and discover what the problem is. And I want to help you see my format, my content, my layout, and so you'll see all of that. Just briefly for the groundwork that you need to know. In the previous episodes, in episode 1, I covered why you should care about the Spanish Bible. You're an English speaker. I'm an English speaker. I do speak Spanish as well. But why, as an English speaker, should I care about the Spanish Bible? 2, the second episode, I covered the history of the Spanish Bible. It's not in depth. It's just an overview, and it is contrasted with the history of the Spanish Bible. Very helpful. I would greatly encourage you to watch that one. 3, my personal testimony. You want to know a little bit about the author, how I came to where I'm at, why I believe what I believe. That's a good episode to help you. 4, the doctrine of preservation. I believe that's essential to understand before we even dive into the text and understand what the problems are and why we disagree. And so if I reference any of these topics and you're lost, you can go back and watch those. My greatest interest in this entire topic is Bible verses. Let's not focus on opinions and arguments. Let's go straight to the Bible and say, what does the text say? That's what I care about. The proof is in the pudding. And that saying's from the 1700s, and actually is the proof is in eating the pudding, and it means you cannot tell the quality of the pudding until you've tasted it. And so I want to look into the text and say, well, what does the text say? So our first verse that we're going to cover, we're going to stick to New Testament in this episode. I study and I spend the bulk of my time in the New Testament. That's not to say there's not problems in the Old Testament, because there are, but I'm more defined in the New Testament. Matthew chapter 5, verse 22. The King James Bible says, "But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother without a cause," and that phrase, "without a cause," is the phrase that we're concerned with. It was removed. It's a difference in the critical text versus the received text. And let me just give you a quick overview of my slide layout, because I believe that's important. On the bottom left side, you're going to see the Bible reference, Matthew 5:22. That will stay consistent through my format. And on the bottom right side, this part you really have to pay attention to, because that is the King James translation. I am unapologetically King James, but because of the contrast and the showing of the differences, we will put other slides and other Bible verses, translations up there so that you can see the difference. And if you don't understand why I am King James or you are King James, then you probably should go back and watch some of the previous episodes. But that phrase, "without a cause," is the key clause that we need to pay attention to. In critical Greek texts, that phrase is not there. And you can see it in a lot of the new translations. For example, the ESV, the English Standard Version, you can see it's right there. "But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother, I put the lines to show that that phrase was removed. It's not there. It just says, but I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. So that's the English Standard Version. You'll see that phrase is missing. The New American Standard Bible of 1995 says the same thing, but I say unto you that everyone who is angry with his brother, and then the spaces, I put those in there because the phrase is not there. It has been omitted. And so same thing with the NIV. You can see that there. But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister, that word is added. And then that phrase without, I forget what the phrase says, without a cause is the phrase, is removed from the text. And so I put those spaces in there so that you can see the difference. And I'm not going to point out every difference in every verse. There may be other differences, but we are just focusing our attention on the one particular phrase that we know is different in the critical text and relevant to our discussion in the Spanish Bible. So I want that's really important. Now I want you to see this next slide, the 1909, the Reina-Valera 1909 says, I will not read it there for you. I can read it, but the word I underlined is locamente, and I'll apologize. I don't think I can say those in English. So if I say something and it doesn't look like what I'm saying, just know it's the highlighted word there. But locamente is the word, and that is an okay word. The word locamente literally means madly, crazily, or wildly. So if he's angry at his brother wildly or crazily or madly. Now, let me just stop right here and say that we are not going to question translation work. This is an English podcast. I'm speaking, my audience is English speakers, and I'll argue all day with Spanish speakers about translation and things like that, but that's not the purpose of this podcast today. And so the purpose is to show you that the word is there. Whether or not it's the best word, that can be debated for other people another day. But the word is there. It's translated because it's in the text. However, you'll notice here in the 1960, that word is gone. It says que se enoje, and then there's no word contra su hermano. So the word locamente has been removed. And so I put those familiar empty lines because that phrase is missing, just like the other critical text Bibles, the ESV, the ones that we looked at, the New American Standard Bible, the NIV. And what bothers me is when people tell me, see, this is the 1960 is the King James in English. No, there's a word that's been removed, and it's not the same. It follows a critical text. And by the way, that word was there in 1865. It was there in 1602. It was there in 1569. Over 300 years, it was in the text. And in 1960, they decided to remove it. And now, that's their prerogative. But don't tell me that it's a received text Bible. It's following a critical text pattern. And it was a purposeful step away from the King James Bible. And you'll notice that the Reina-Valera Gómez, it says, pero yo os digo que cualquier que sin razón, that means that without a cause, without reason. And so that phrase was added back in there. And I believe it was the 1865 actually that had the same phrase, que sin razón, was in there as well. And so we restored it back to the way it should be, the way it follows received text, not critical text. And so that's just one verse. And there are literally hundreds, and we're going to look at others. We don't have you would fall asleep if I covered all of them today. And I'm purposefully trying to keep all of these around 10 minutes. And so we are just out of time. That's it. I got one verse in. But we will look at more. I've already got them laid out, and the work is done. But you will see that there are literally hundreds of verses. There's charts out there. I put together tons of charts myself, but I'm making this and I'm walking you through it because I'm assuming that you're an English speaker. Maybe your Spanish is very limited, or not at all. And that's fine. That's why I want to help you and give you resources that definitively say that and show you that information. So I hope that this helps you. Thank you for listening to the Spanish Bible Podcast. If this episode has been helpful, consider sharing it with a friend, a missionary, a pastor, or anyone interested in the Spanish Bible. Until next time, keep studying God's Word and keep reaching the Spanish-speaking world with the gospel.